Part C. Okay, so now we want to create this moving alpha channel. And again, if you hit your spacebar, you play that, you can see that's actually a, you know, piece of video, a movie file, and that's great. We're going to take your playhead and put it right back to the beginning of it. That's kind of important. And what we're going to do now is we're going to double click on that boy movie layer, and it's going to open up the layer. So you're going to see composition here and layer. We actually want to work on this layer because this is where we're now going to, basically create this alpha channel, this moving alpha channel, which is going to track every one of those frames of video. As you notice, there was many frames of video, right? 3 seconds, and it was at 2997. Get your calculator out, and you can figure out how many frames that is. That's a lot of frames. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go up here, and we're going to activate the Roto Brush tool. Now, this is a special tool that is going to help us to create this alpha channel. So what we're going to do now is we are going to basically take this brush tool to create the proper border to help us separate the boy from the background of the video. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to activate our windows on the top here, and we're going to go to brushes, and we're going to get our brushes palette. And what we're going to do is we're going to get set up a hard round brush, and so there's a 19 round brush, but of course we want to make that a little bigger, so we're going to go to the diameter, and we're going to set that up to about 100. So good, nice thick hard edge brush. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this brush now, and we're going to start to create the segmentation boundary to separate the boy from the background. So all I'm going to do is drag that brush down all the way, and you're going to notice right away, you're going to see this this pink separation line. And again, depending on where I started, those are the parts of the boy that it has grabbed. Now, of course, I need to continue to select the boy from the background. So again, I'm going to take that brush tool, and I'm going to go all the way over to as far as I can. I don't want to go too far over, because if I do, it's going to go into the background. I don't want that. So now you can see I've got a little bit more of the boy. You can see the pink boundary lines. I'm going to go up into that hat and try to grab a little bit more of that hat. Okay, and there's a little spot up here I haven't grabbed yet, so I'm going to grab that. And so I'm going to look around. Oh, there's a little chunk down here that I haven't grabbed. Oh, there's a little chunk down there that I haven't grabbed. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to grab as much of this young boy as possible. At some point, you're going to have to basically kind of go in and try to get closer to try to get as much as you can. So now what I might do is I might I might go a little smaller with my brush, because I'm getting kind of into some areas that are starting to get a little too close to the edge there. Okay, and because if I inadvertently, if I start grabbing stuff that I don't want, I'll show you what happens. So I'm going to go over here with that brush, because there's still a little bit of that area here that I want to grab. So that worked really well. In here, there's still a little bit of this. So this is what happens now if I'm a little not careful. You see how that pink boundary line? Okay. So what you can do now is if you hold down your Option key, you see it's green with a plus, but if you hold down your Option key, it's red with a negative. So if I accidentally were to take stuff I didn't want, I could go and basically just do the opposite. So I can go and kind of remove areas that I've selected. But again, ideally, what you want to do is you want to manipulate the size of your brush to work, a little more exacting to what you want to be. And you can see there I'm starting to kind of get too much of what I don't want to keep. So I'm really, going to have to start to kind of change that brush size down to a much smaller brush size so that I can basically kind of, almost surgical precision go in here and start to kind of work those areas. Now, of course, I want to reselect this area. So with that much smaller brush, I'm going to basically go in there, grab that, tidy up this edge here, try to grab a little bit of that. That was a little off, so I'll make sure I got it right on. Oh, up here you can see on this hat a little bit of a problem here. So I'm going to see if I can grab some of that and make that a little better. And yeah, so by, very carefully working around the edges, making sure that I've got everything that makes up that foreground of that young lad. Actually, there's a little spot in here that I don't want. So again, I'm going to do my option thing in here. And I'm going to try to get rid of that spot in there because that's basically the background. It's like the flap of the hat kind of thing. So what's really cool is what you've done is you've created an alpha channel. Oh, there's a little bit here I need to fix. So, you can start to, if you're looking really closely, you can see areas that you've missed. Now, down here is different ways to look at it. So that's another way to look at that alpha channel. That's a true way to look at an alpha channel. It's a cutout, white over black. Of course, this was what we were looking at. So you can see there's all kinds of different methods to view that alpha channel. And all we're doing with that alpha channel is we're keeping what we want, and we're going to get rid of, eventually we're going to get rid of what we don't want. So that is ultimately what we're trying to do here, is keep the important stuff, get rid of the stuff that we don't want. The stuff that we don't want is the background video. Stuff that we do want is the young boy in the foreground. Now, what's really interesting here is that you'll see it did 10 frames of that original segmentation boundary. 20 frames. So right there. So those gray frames basically are the first 20 frames. Now, really what I want to do is I want to extend that segmentation boundary so that it basically is going to grab, the whole clip, that whole 3 seconds and whatever frames it was of that young boy. So I'm going to drag that so it's now in this dark gray frame, because what I have to do now is by using my number 2 key on my keyboard, you can see I'm jogging 1 frame at a time. So as I jog 1 frame at a time, what I want to do is I want to notice any problems with my segmentation boundary, okay? So what I'm going to do is go through this frame by frame and see if there's any problems. And right now I'm noticing a bit of a problem up here in that toque. So now what I want to do is, maybe I want to go here and maybe just kind of grab that a little bit better. Okay. Because there's a bit of an issue there. And now, again, what I'll do, go forward a frame. Yeah, that's looking a little bit better. Yeah, it's a little scraggly up here, but, I got some other techniques down the road. So what I'm doing is I'm going frame by frame, right? Now you're going to notice there's a little gap right in here, which again, I mean, if I really want to do a great job, I could take that brush size, right down to the smallest pixel and grab it in there. But again, you could drive yourself crazy, but you know what? I'm just going to kind of not worry about that too much. At some point, it is going to be a problem as it starts to get bigger. So maybe when I get to 3 or 4 frames in, maybe this is a good time to grab that. So maybe take my brush size down. Now that's really small. I've got it down to 2 pixels. That's going to be pretty tough to grab that. So I might have to bring it up a little bit more, so that I can actually see inside this area here and try to grab that. So hopefully what I've done now is I've grabbed that area, but again, it might be just a little too big for that brush size. Now you can zoom in, if you want, you can zoom in a little bit and you can have a better look, and you can move the screen around and stuff like that. But sometimes if you just kind of use your eye, and not do that so your frame of reference doesn't get messed up. So I'll just change that brush size a little bit smaller, and I'll try that again. And I think I grabbed it there. So now I'm going to go frame two. Oh, and now I've lost it. So now I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to grab that little area there. And, you know, it's really hard to see. And as I advance frame by frame, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can grab this area. Now, it's not a big deal if you don't grab that area because it's really small and it's not going to create a huge problem for you. But, you know, if you really want to do a bang up job on these moving alpha channels, it's kind of, you know, good to pay attention to these details. Okay, so actually now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to go option, and you're going to see why I wasn't able to grab that, because I was trying to select that area, but what I really wanted to do was not select that area. But now you see the mess that I've caused there, right? So this is why you got to kind of play around with these brushes, and you're going to have to go back in there, and okay, that's a little bit better now. Now I'm going to go back. All right, so yeah, so what I wanted to do was I didn't want to select that area. I wanted to basically do the opposite, which was deselect that area. So this is where, you know, again, you have to spend a little bit of time, detail, and pay attention to what you're doing. Okay, so that probably is a little bit better. So I'll go back another frame. So again, what I'll do now is I'll option click, and I'll try to, you know, grab that area. I'll go back another frame. Because that, you know, again, if you want to do a good job, this is what it takes to do a good job. Ooh, that didn't work very well, so I'm just going to, yeah, there we go. So, you know, again, this is the kind of nonsense, you know, if you really, really want to do a good job, this is where you kind of, you know, this is where the pedal meets the metal, as they say. So I'm going to go by every one of those frames, and I'm going to see if I can just kind of grab that little area. Yeah, there it is again. I've lost it, so I'm going to grab that little area. Now, I'm spending a lot of time on this. Well, you get the idea that if you're going to do a good job on this stuff, that's what you need to do. So as you're going around, you're going to look at all the edges to make sure you're not losing any of that boy. So frame by frame, frame by frame. And, you know, spending that time on that area, paying attention to that detail, you know, might pay off. Again, it might seem ridiculous for you to do this, but at the end of the day, if you want to do a good job, this is the kind of, you know, attention to detail that you're going to have. Now, you can see I'm grabbing some of this background over here. So I got to go back here and see where that starts. So it looks like that starts around this frame here. So what I got to do now is I got to try to not grab a bit of that. Okay. And now as I go forward, oh, you can see there it started there again. So I'm going to go in there and not grab some of that. Go forward. There we go. That's a little bit better. Okay. So again, if you catch these, oops, there it's spreading again. So I'm going to go in here. If you catch these problems, paying attention to them as you're going, you can stop them from becoming huge problems. So because what's happening is the camera's moving and the young lad is moving frame by frame. And what I'm doing here is I'm trying to correct any problems. There's another little separation there. So again, I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to touch that up. And again, spend the time to do a good job and work through there frame by frame. Now that hat's always going to be a problem, okay? But we do have some other tricks up our sleeve to try to resolve that. So I'm just going to keep hitting that number 2 button, and I'm just going to look and see if there's any glaring huge problems and try to, the best of my ability, make sure I'm fixing that. Now there's a little problem that's starting there on the hat. So I'm going to see where that started by going back a few frames. And it looks like it started right around the middle of that pickup truck where I'm starting to lose a little bit of the hat. So what I want to do is find out exactly where that problem started. And again, what I'll do is just kind of grab that and fix that in the hopes that as it moves through there, it sticks with the hat and doesn't start grabbing some of the background around there. Now you can see the top of the toque again is really kind of problematic, and you've got that bright sky on the background. So as that starts to kind of fragment and break away, you know, again, if I spend a little time here just kind of touching up some of those areas, you know, I can save myself a lot of touch-up work in the end. And again, you know, really all depends on how good of a job you want to do. And again, if you do a good job, it'll be well worth the payoff. So yeah, it's very painstaking work. You know, not for the faint of heart. You could spend hours doing this kind of work, and if you want to be, you know, in special effects, this is the kind of patience that it requires. And if you don't want to do this kind of work, well, then don't. But for now, you're going to learn a little bit about this so you have an appreciation. So there's another little problem there with that little space in there. Now, do I just forget about it? Do I worry about it? You know, that's a call that, you know, you as an After Effects artist, you know, you got to determine whether that's going to be a huge problem for you when you go to finish this off. So what we're doing is we're advancing frame at a time, frame at a time, frame at a time, and very carefully watching for any huge problems. And yeah, there's that little separation there, that little gap there starts to grow. So, you know, again, maybe I try to get rid of that and try to nip it in the bud. But you can see it's rendering, it's taking time. And that's, you know, it's pretty intense what we're doing. Ideally, what I want to do now is I want to go through this every frame until I've got it perfect, okay? So work on that and watch the next part of this video.